As a broker, have you ever looked at another brokerage to maybe acquire them or merge with them, and in your gut, you knew it wasn't the right decision? Same with being an agent. Did you want to join a specific brokerage because it seemed good, but in your gut, you were like, this isn't the right decision? And are you disciplined enough to say no? Dava Davin is, and she is the CEO of Portside Real Estate Group with offices in Maine and New Hampshire. And we had a wonderful discussion about, business discipline and mindset and more. So I think you're going to get a lot out of this one. Enjoy the podcast. So welcome to the podcast, Dava. It's great to have you on.
Oh, I'm so excited to be here. I feel like I can now check HousingWire podcast off my bucket list. This is a huge honor. Thank you for having me and inviting me, Tracey.
Oh, absolutely. I always love chatting with you. And I'm also excited that you're going to be a speaker at the gathering in June. So I'm excited to have you come speak with us. So thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. So for the audience who doesn't really know you, why don't you just give us a little synopsis of you and your business?
Sure. So I have the privilege every day to guide Portside Real Estate Group on this incredible journey that we've been on. And I get to be inspired every day by the awesome people I'm surrounded with. We are in Maine and New Hampshire, and we are the leading independent brokerage in Northern New England by a lot. So that is sort of how I fit into the real estate landscape.
And tell me, how many agents do you have at your brokerage, and how long have you been in business?
Yeah, so I opened Portside in 2012. So goodness, we're at 12 years. We have about 200 people in our organization, and we just going into December rounded out $1 billion in sales for this year.
Congratulations. And it has been a little bit of a tough year for people, so that's amazing.
Thank you. Yeah, we're having fun.
So tell me one thing that people would be surprised to know about you.
Oh, let's see. I think, as most people do, I had a little bit of an interesting path that led me to this CEO role that I'm in now. Previous to real estate, I was in the pharmaceutical industry for the better part of a decade. And I don't know if you've seen the docudrama Dope Sick, but that was the company that I worked for that produced OxyContin, which ultimately killed 600,000 Americans. Yeah. So of course, at the time, I had no idea. I thought we were helping people to, be cured of their pain. But once everything came to fruition, it left me pretty broken. And that in turn led me to this new career in real estate, which is where I am now.
Which was a great career move for you, obviously. But I can imagine how you'd feel going, really finding out that the company you're working for was doing more harm than good. That must have been a real kind of eye-opener for you.
It was, a soul crusher for me. And I think it turned me to be very introspective of what do I want the rest of my career to look like, and how do I want to have an impact on this world. My mom and dad led a life of service, and I'm kind of like, what am I doing? How did I get here? And so that's always in the back of my mind as I lead my brokerage, and just to make sure that I am having some kind of impact in a positive way.
Yeah. And so also, I know something that I think some people would be surprised to know about you, or just don't know about you, is that you're an endurance athlete. You've done Ironmans, you've done marathons. Tell me a little bit about that, and how it's really, how your kind of athletic pursuits inform your business.
Great question. I mean, first of all, I'm so grateful, for my body, and that I'm able-bodied to do these things. I was not athletic in high school and college. I didn't play sports. I always worked after school in my free time. So to achieve these, high level athletic achievements in my 40s, pretty great. An Ironman, for those in the audience that don't know, it's a 2.4 mile swim, 112 mile bike ride, and then you run a marathon. That's kind of like a 13, 14 hour endeavor. And I think once you can tap into your mind, sort of mind over matter, you really can achieve anything. And I think that's where that translates into business and glass ceilings and taking it to the next level. Which is, kind of like my MO in life, like not being naturally athletic yet finishing 4 Ironmans and, 15, 16 marathons, not being particularly like intelligent or have, come from real estate, but being able to run a pretty great brokerage. I think turning like mediocrity into something really powerful. That's kind of, that's my MO. And I think anyone can do it. And I think that's the message. It's like, I'm not particularly, gifted in any way. It's just sort of having that mind over matter mindset.
Yeah, there's a big difference between running a marathon, which you said you just did the Berlin Marathon, correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
In October,
and doing an Ironman. I have a friend who was an Ironman triathlete, and she was sponsored. I mean, she was really good. And now she doesn't do it anymore, but she's in her 50s now. So, but she did her last one into her 40s. So yeah, that's a whole nother level.
It's just so many lessons that come along with that of, trusting in yourself, time management, I just think the more it's like, if you want something done, ask a busy person. And I think when you're having that level of, commitment to something and just managing your schedule to like literally to the 5 minutes to make sure that you can get it all done in a day, it just helps you to be so productive.
Yeah, I feel like if mentally you could do an Ironman, business is easy. I mean, right.
I'm not throwing up on the sideline, so this is pretty having a good day.
Definitely. So let's talk about your business. What do you find as the biggest challenge, maybe in the industry, maybe it's with your business, but what do you find as your biggest challenge today?
I think with Portside, that kind of ties into what we were just talking about. That biggest challenge is, my drive for growth and my drive to achieve and to keep moving things forward, that fire that's, in my belly. Having that, but also trying to stay true to Portside's core and keeping everything feeling Portside-y. So, as we expand, we take on new opportunities. It's just so important to me that like every decision reflects our integrity, our culture, that community focus that we have. So it's like this balancing act that I'm having every day of like, I want to go this way, but I also want to make sure that everyone still feels, cared about and supported and, part of this really cool thing that we've created. So it's a balancing act that keeps me pushing forward. And I just know like deep down that we can be this caring, community focused, brokerage that helps agents live their best lives and grow and help more people. And you see it, in other industries and other companies. And that's what I'm trying to achieve. So I think that's the daily challenge that I face.
And so how has the transition been post-settlement for you and your agents? I'm not sure if you were already doing that in Maine. I know some states were already doing buyer agreements and that. How has that transition been for you?
Yeah, we were fortunate to have already been doing buyer agreements since the inception of the company and executing them. So our company policy has always been to have a buyer consultation and have them understand how you're compensated. So like we were like, oh, sweet. Now everyone has to do it. And there's this clarity. And so honestly, this has been like the past 90 days have been our best 90 days of company history. I think our agents are able to negotiate, their value and have appropriate commissions coming in. So I think that's been very empowering and it just allowed us to continue to rise as professionals in our area. So it was probably the best thing that's happened in our history of the company.
So for you, you've been doing it. So you probably have some helpful tidbits for agents or brokers who maybe are, I think it's been fairly seamless transition, but there are some, ups and downs for sure. So what would be kind of your best practices for the buyer consultation? Because I think for agents who don't always do it, it's been a little bit of a struggle, getting that done.
Yeah. And I think in, other areas, it's, on the buyer side, it's been like, yeah, I'm happy to go, show you houses. And it's almost like you're volunteering. They don't really understand how you were getting paid. And so I think having that opportunity to be like, Awesome. I'm so glad you referred to me. I just want to have an opportunity to sit down and chat with you how the process works, how I'm compensated. So let's go ahead and get that scheduled. And like having that time to truly be a professional, walk them through how it's going to work, have them sign the appropriate paperwork, and then start house shopping. So it's fairly simple. I think it's just getting over that hurdle if people aren't used to it. And we're seeing like the brand new people to the industry, they're like, okay, this is how we do it. And it's much easier. It's sort of the people that have been doing it successfully for a long time. Adding that step in is the hurdle. But once they get used to it, I think everyone's going to appreciate it, because if you can't explain your worth and you can't explain a contract to a client, you don't have any business in our industry.
Have you found any agents doing something unique that has really kind of, I don't know, that you've seen with the buyer consultation that has really pushed the professionalism of it?
I think everyone has their own style of how they're going to do this. And I think having a longer sort of dating period before you're actually, moving into working with someone, I think has been very helpful to weed out, is it a good fit on both sides? And so I think that's been really helpful. I think it saved a lot of time for the agents, so they aren't, wasting time with people that aren't going to be viable clients for them for whatever reason, whether it's personality or budget or whatever.
Yeah, I think that's the hardest thing for agents, is really kind of saying no to someone, especially a potential buyer or seller, even though in their gut they know it's not the right fit. That has to be very difficult.
Yeah, setting those boundaries and giving yourself that grace and permission to be like, I have a mindset of abundance, and it's like, if you say no to this, that means there's probably going to be 2 other things over here. And so just trusting in that. Hard to do, but
I've been listening to a lot of podcasts about a mindset of abundance. I just listened to one today too, the School of Greatness, and they were talking about having that mindset too. I think it's fascinating.
I have to write that down.
Yeah, it plays into the whole idea of, it's the same being an athlete as running a business, or as, doing several other things. A lot of it is mindset. A lot of it is kind of having this mindset of abundance and not having this idea that, oh my gosh, if I don't take this one, it's the last one I'll ever get.
Yeah, and just being okay with delayed gratification, just doing the work day in and day out, and just knowing the outcome is going to be there, which is kind of goes along with triathlon training. It's like you got to grind it out every day, but then when you get there on race day, that, it's that cumulative effect, and it all happens.
Yeah, and that kind of leads me into my next question, which you talked about. One of your aha moments is when you left your pharmaceutical job and decided to start a brokerage. So what other personal or professional aha moments have you had that have really impacted you, maybe while you're growing your company?
Yeah, I feel like I have aha moments every day. It's just like one big aha. I think this one's kind of silly and obvious, but it might speak to broker owners on the call that started out as agents. So I was an agent at a franchise, and I thought, oh my gosh, I'm just going to do this on my own. It's going to be very agent centric, and we're going to just collaborate, and we're going to have great marketing, and it's just going to be, this, inexpensive place where people can work, and it's going to be this big love fest. And it started out that way, and we did some cool, unique things. But then, you have that aha moment of like, oh my gosh, am I running a business or a charity? And I remember sitting down with Jack Miller early on from T360, and he says, listen, girl, you are in the valley of death. Like, you need to scale this thing. I think you have something, unique and good going on here, but if you don't scale it, this is a hobby. And so that was aha number 2. And I was like, okay, I need to get it together, and I need to like prove that I can do this. And then I really focused, I think too much on running the business and the bottom line. And it kind of started to like blend into some of the other companies that we see. And so that's when I had like the third aha to be like, okay, I got to focus back on the people and not be so laser focused like on those goals, on the P&L and growing the business. And while that's important, I think stepping back and just really focusing on the relationships, investing in the relationships, with my clients, with my team, with the community. I mean, though, that's where you build that loyalty, build the trust, and build that foundation for like a longer term success. So I think shifting back, kind of back and forth there as I was learning on the job, it really just helped me to double down on like this culture of care, culture of collaboration. And it's, made Portside just not be successful in the marketplace, but a place where our agents hopefully feel truly supported, valued, feel like it's a safe place to be. And that's something that I'm just incredibly proud of, even though it was like a little bit of a journey to get to this point.
And what do you think is the kind of the key to growing your business? Like, what is that key kind of magic that your brokerage has that attracts agents when they come to your brokerage? What is it that you find, really drives them to join you?
Female leadership? No, I think, when I chat with a new agent, if they can't come to Portside and have their best year ever, then it isn't a fit. And their best year ever could be, making more income for their family, or just having more of a balance, learning some strategies to not have such a chaotic business. Maybe it's find a community of, other like-minded people that makes them feel safe and feel part of something. So I think that key is really helping people to have a better career if Portside is a fit. And, many times Portside isn't a fit, but if it is, and I feel like we can help them, then it's like magic, and it's like the light bulb goes off and people can, come in, drop their armor at the door and just feel safe and get to work. And like, let's help you, grow your business and in turn help all those other people that you touch. I think when agents are happy, they do really great business. So that I think is really, the driver for the attraction.
And so as far as, obviously COVID changed a lot of things. With agents were never great coming into the office to begin with. And then COVID hit and they really don't come in much anymore at all. How many offices do you have? And do you find that your agents are more remote, or are they coming in? Do you feel like your culture kind of is one of being in the office?
It is a mixed bag. I think like most brokerages throughout the country, we also too can get a little rural in Maine. And so, an office could be quite a bit of distance. So I think it's, just being really strategic to have different events that bring people together, and people will drive if there's a value added opportunity. We have a lot of training, really coaching, from mastermind groups to boot camps to different things that have to be in person. And then we have like a market momentum meeting every Monday at 9:30 that's on Zoom. So just trying to like figure out what works for everyone. We'd rather someone attend in some fashion than not be able to attend at all. But people, there's a steady flow of agents coming in and out. I think we've gotten smarter and we can have smaller square footage for a greater amount of agents, but there's always seems to be space because people are more transient and not necessarily hunkering down in that office all day.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's it's kind of a culture thing too. I don't know any broker who has tons of agents in the office every day. It's just not happening anymore. And so the ones that I feel like really are keeping that connection going are the ones offering a lot of different options for connection. Like you said, whether it's training, whether it's online, whatever it is, you're giving them that kind of collaboration and that option to connect. And that's so important.
It's so important. And, you can't hide at Portside, you are a valuable person of our community. And so the way that we have our staff structured, like someone's looking out for you and someone's connecting with you, whether you like it or not. And I think that really, really helps too, to kind of help people to feel part of something.
Yeah, absolutely. It is a people profession. So definitely. So you are the sole owner of the brokerage. Tell me a little bit about your leadership style, and have you seen it evolve over the years?
Yeah. I mean, first of all, I feel like I'm the luckiest person to work with such an amazing team, first and foremost. And I think I'm surrounded by so many leaders, and it just shows up in different ways. I think leadership style, I mean, it's, if we looked at our org chart, it's like a bunch of circles, so it's really teamwork. It's really empowering each other, lots of communication, recognizing the strengths of everyone on the team and giving them that space and that platform to shine and to lead and to be creative, I think is really helpful for the success of the organization. And I think understanding people's pace. And that took me a while to learn. So I have one pace. And I remember one of my team members that I just adore and respect, she said, listen, Dava, you're really hurting my feelings when you tell me not to overthink things, because that is how I process. And that is how I'm helping moving this organization forward, because you've got all these ideas, but, we need to have time to see how could that realistically happen. And so that was just a huge aha for me. And I'm so grateful for her for pointing out that blind spot that I had. And now I can recognize that everyone has a different pace, and my pace isn't the best pace in all situations. And sometimes you really need to slow down to be successful.
Yeah, absolutely. I can definitely see that. I tend to overthink things. But I work, honestly, when I was working at RealTrends with Steve is kind of the type of person who is like, okay, let's try it. Willing to fail, or finding huge success with whatever it is. And it was really hard for me to kind of reconcile that. Like, no, we have to wait. Is this going to work? What do we do here? But I like his style much better than mine. So.
No, but it's so important because it creates chaos when I'm like, we're doing that. Let's totally do that, but does that fit into the business plan? Does that make sense now? Is it later? How, and so sometimes the devil's in the details, and I appreciate and honor details, but I'm not detail oriented. So having, folks on the team that can really point that out, it just helps. It's that combination that I think it's sort of like the visionary and the integrator, you need both, to do great things.
Yeah, you learn so much from people who have different skills than you do. That old saying is you surround yourself with people who are better at things that you're not, and I don't know, I can't remember the exact phrase, but you get the gist of it. And that is so true. Like, if I'm hiring someone, I want them to be way better at something that I'm not skilled at. And I don't care that they're better than me because it really works for the whole team, that we complement each other. Yeah.
I agree so much.
And how do you have a very personalized kind of boutique-y feel, even though you're a 200 agent brokerage in a couple of states. So how do you grow and keep that and scale that kind of culture and scale that feeling that agents have when they join your brokerage? Where's the magic in that? How do you do that?
Yeah. And I mentioned that earlier as one of the challenges that we face. I think in my hope and my goal is that every decision can be a win-win. And I think it's that simple. So if there's an acquisition opportunity, does it make sense for that brokerage leader, for their agents? And does it make sense for Portside and most importantly, our agents? And if we can't find that balance, then we need to pass. And we have passed on many more opportunities than we've captured, because I feel like we're at risk of losing that Portsidiness, of losing that special sauce. I think Portside could be a lot bigger. I just don't think it would be as great. And I think, I might not make a lot of friends on this podcast, but I think a lot of leaders can be either, greedy or too caught up in their own ego. And I think that if you can let that go, it's hard to do, but let that go. I think you can create something that keeps what you mentioned, that personalized approach. And so that's what I'm trying to do, and just treading carefully. I'd rather be great than big.
It takes
And I'd rather
discipline.
people, it does. And you kind of see it in the industry, and I'm kind of like,
Mhm.
oh, I don't want that to happen to us.
Yeah, because I do feel like it might not even be ego. It's more you can justify anything. Well, it's not that great of a fit, but this brokerage does have, we could double our size or we could, get into a new market. So you kind of justify it. So it takes a lot of discipline to really recognize what's going to work and say no to the ones that don't.
Absolutely. And sometimes it
Yeah.
hurts. You're like,
Yeah.
and then you see something else happen. You're like, dang it, I guess I should have said
Yeah.
yes.
Oh, so I definitely want to mention your Portside Gives Back. I know that you've donated, I think, over 200,000 annually to local nonprofits, and it seems to me that it's a big part of the culture of your brokerage. This whole giving back, community involvement. So tell me a little bit about it, and kind of some of your plans for it.
Sure. Yeah. Those might be some older numbers. I think we're probably
Okay.
approaching 300,000
Okay.
annually, which is so
Hmm.
exciting. And it really is, part of who we are. Our sister company is the Portside Foundation, which is a 501c3. And, it's just, I think, a simple way to incorporate giving back into a culture that people can feel more connected. And I think it goes back to my background of feeling like, are we having enough impact, especially when we sit in these seats of privilege? So, I mean, for me, it's just like a simple drive to do better. I was a little bit of imposter syndrome. I was invited to speak on a panel a few years back on corporate social responsibility. And I'm like looking around at these leaders. I'm like, why did they ask me to be on this panel? Like, we at the time were doing, a series of like community events. And we sort of had like this persona of being, like a kind, gentle company. But I was like, I need to do more. Like, these leaders are amazing, and we can really grow this. And then the next day I went on a 100-mile bike ride with one of my girlfriends who is in the nonprofit world, and we're brainstorming. And I'm like, even if we just start small, like if we do like 1%, and then we were like, wait, 1%, we're on to something. We got off our bikes and we were like really excited. And that's how our 1% Back initiative was born.
Mhm.
So it's a really simple process. And I encourage everyone listening to, perhaps, there's something similar that you can do in your brokerage, because if we're all doing it, we're going to make some significant changes. So basically we take 1% of top line revenue. We invite the agents to do the same. And we probably have 95% participation. And the other 5% is probably doing something amazing on their own anyways. So we sweep that money over, and then we have a committee of volunteers of our agents that read through big stacks of grants of the needs that we're seeing here in Maine.
Mhm.
And, basically our mission is to break systemic cycles. So generational
Mhm.
poverty, substance abuse disorder, basic access, food, healthcare, education, housing. So they read through to see what fits our missions. And
Mhm.
these nonprofits are small, and this
Yeah.
funding is so impactful. It goes directly from us to them, to our neighbors and in our community that are in need. And then we do a little math. We make sure that the money's going into the county where it was generated, so it can go
Mhm.
right back in. And so it's this very simple way that we've been able to have this big impact. And on Tuesday, on Giving Tuesday, we had a celebration of celebrating $1 million given back in the last 3 or 4 years. And we invited all of our beneficiaries. And
Mhm.
just being, I mean, it was like not a dry eye in the place, just hearing the stories of the individual Mainers that this money has helped. It was just mind blowing. And I think it makes any long day that we have, any stressful situation that we're seeing in real estate, it just, just makes that all totally worth it, to know that like a little bit of this is going back, and without us, this $1 million wouldn't have been poured into our community. So it's just fueling. And I think that the
Mhm.
agents feel it too, and they're like, yeah, I'm out there showing houses and listing houses,
Yeah.
but like I'm also doing this like added benefit, and I don't really have
Mhm.
to do anything to get it, and I think we're all
Mhm.
so busy. And so simplifying giving and giving the money to the people that are trained and, able to go out there and do it, it creates just such a win-win, and just a, just a logical way to have society function in a better way. If all
Yeah.
businesses did this, and I think we
Mhm.
wouldn't see so much suffering and need in our communities.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love that you really give extra thought to the hyper local aspect of it. And like you said, keeping money in certain counties that was given in certain counties, because I do think those are the charities that need the most help too. So, and they're impacting the people in your community directly. Not that others aren't, but it's just a little more special. So, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
So, when you look at the industry in general, where do you see the most opportunity in 2025?
That's a fantastic question. I'm part of a couple CEO groups, and we always talk about where's the opportunity, and the answer is usually, ancillary services. You got to add title and mortgage and insurance. You got to get your brokerage to be more profitable. And I think that's a valid answer to the opportunity question. I don't know if it answering like the opportunity question or the opportunity to make money in real estate question. So I think the opportunity is kind of sitting right here in front of us. If we were to take a look at the top 10 brokerages in any market, I think we're going to see that maybe one or two are solely women owned and run. Okay. So, come on, sisters out there listening, like we can change that. Call me. I'm more than happy to share my secrets. I think that once we have more gender balance in real estate brokerage, we're going to have better agents, happy agents, more balanced, healthy balance sheets. I think that is a huge opportunity. And I just feel like for all of the powerhouse women listening, like, let's do this. Let's take advantage of this now in 2025.
Yeah, that's great. Great message. I like it. And so my final question is your 5-year plan. Like 5 years from now, what do you wish Portside to be?
I am so excited for the next 5 years. I feel like we're not new and we're not, necessarily small anymore. We're the second largest brokerage in Maine. So I'm really excited to grow from there. We are going to continue to grow our foundation. We are more fired up about that than ever, just with, things changing in our country. And I think that we're going to become a top player in New Hampshire as we've done in Maine. We have some fun things coming down the pike for 2025. So I'm excited to extend that into more of Northern New England. And I think like we've talked about on this podcast so much is just keeping our special culture of helping agents lead better lives and hanging on to that and continuing to help one agent at a time as we continue to grow. And how can we do that? Hopefully with enthusiasm, with love, with care, being ahead of the curve, not overreacting to things, and just really being able to zen out and go with the flow and focus on our mission. And, regardless of what the market does, I feel that professional, happy agents are going to flourish in any market. So I'm excited just to, keep going and be part of everyone's journey.
Well, Dava, thank you so much for joining RealTrending. I look forward to seeing you in June. It'll come faster than we know. But I love talking to you. I just feel you have a certain energy, and I can tell how you attract agents so easily because of that. So thanks for joining me.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. I can't wait to give you a big hug when I see you in Colorado at the gathering. Thank you so much. Enjoy the holiday season, Tracey.
You too.
Thank you.